And we are live. Hello, everyone. We are back for episode 50 of Talking Tech. This is, I can't even call it the weekly podcast from MobileTechTalk, seeing as we've been off air for about 6 months. But you know, we've been collecting our thoughts, making everything sound a little bit better, and also just forgetting about it. So.
Plus I left the country for a little while, so...
Yeah, Mark left the country to go to China, and I thought that might be, like, my chance to stop the Slack tirades I get from him. But no, those still count. It doesn't matter if he was halfway around the world. They continued. So...
Yeah, well, it's one of the few things that work in China, because China internet is so broken. It's so unbelievably broken. It's painful.
Well, the Great Firewall and all that. So we're actually doing a slightly different type of Talking Tech this week. We've rejigged it about a bit. We've spoken about this behind the scenes, and basically it's going to be a lot more discussion based. So we still have news topics. We have 3 news topics, 5 to 10 minutes each. Really trying to keep it short, close to 5 minutes, and then the rest of it we will have discussion topics. There we go. Wow, words are really, really hard. So let's just start with it. We'll talk about the BlackBerry Key 1. So I will take the helm on this because if you're on the live stream, you can see me gladly holding up said device. And if you're on the audio podcast, you can just hear me clicking the keys, which you probably can't actually hear anything.
You can't hear.
Well, I tried. So I was at the launch event in the UK, which was at Selfridges of all places, which I thought was super strange until I remember that, and I didn't put the phone on mute. Pretty much the last 4 major BlackBerry device launches have all been done at Selfridges. So it's.
Do you think they just get a preferential rate or what?
No, I think that they were partners for like a long time. This was when like BlackBerry was actually useful for business, and Selfridges is one of those companies that is kind of steeped in tradition and all that bollocks. So they're like, that sounds like a good name, and then they just never stopped, even when BlackBerry kind of went off the rails. So if I remember correctly, they did the Z10 and Q10 launched there, then the Passport and the Classic, and now this. So this is like the 5th one. Absolutely lovely event. Stupid time. 8:30 in the morning. An hour before the actual venue even opened. So none of the Selfridges staff knew this was going on. Bear in mind, there are about 5 entrances to the Selfridges building as well. And I went to the wrong 4 first. Just a bit of a nightmare, but absolutely lovely event and absolutely gorgeous phone. And I'm kind of here to answer any questions that people have. So let's go with Siddu first, because why not? I felt like it.
Okay, so I mean, the thing was, like, a couple of years back, I really wanted a BlackBerry. So it was either going with the iPhone 5 or the BlackBerry something or the other, and an iPad mini. And I wasn't quite sure at that point because, I think it was one of those odd Apple sales, and they were doing like 50 quid off the iPad mini at that point. And I really, really wanted it. But like now looking back, I don't know, they got phased out. Like people stopped having them a couple months later. And I guess in a way it's a good thing I never had one. But I mean, the whole aesthetic, my uncle and auntie had one. And, whenever I did get to see it, it was pretty cool. My uncle still uses it, surprisingly, as a second phone. It's working, which is surprising. You can't say that for a lot of phones. I think he's had it for about 5 years now, and he uses it literally every day. And it's robust, but I don't know whether the newer devices are going to be exactly the same, because I haven't tried any of the newer devices personally, because they're nowhere to be seen in any shop.
Yeah, which is something strange I found out at the event is BlackBerry have given Selfridges a 1 week worldwide exclusive, not just like UK, like worldwide exclusive they've given Selfridges, so they're the only place in the world you can buy this phone right now, which is insane.
Seriously? All right.
Selfridges, which is a high-end department store in the UK, which is not a technology store, though it sells technology items, has been given a 1-week global exclusive on the Key One.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's like to me. That's like I don't know, Apple giving Tesco an exclusive for a week. I don't get it.
No,
It's like they'll give Harrods the exclusive. We'll go that way. At least Tesco sell electronics at a pretty good rate.
Well, by that
and
rationale,
also
then,
there is more than one Tesco.
A 1-week exclusivity. If we're going on company stature. But no, okay, look, that's cool, and well done, Selfridges and BlackBerry, I think. But it's 1 week. Why bother?
It's a symbolic gesture more than anything else. Jeffrey, is there anything you wanted to ask about the Key One whilst I've got you on here?
No, not really. I mean, it's pretty damn hard to actually get the Key One anywhere in the Netherlands. Same was for the Priv. So, no, I'm not really interested in BlackBerry phones either. So.
Yeah, I think that was something I was thinking of. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. You are a fair bit younger than myself, Craig, and Mark, and I think maybe a bit younger than Siddu. Have you ever owned a BlackBerry?
No, I've never owned a BlackBerry. My brother did own 3 BlackBerry phones before, but they all died within 3 months of each other.
Wow.
So yeah.
So is that just kind of put you off then? You've never wanted. I mean, when the Passport came along or the Priv came along, did you not go, "Oh, I might want to try one of those out," or are you just not interested?
Just because of the bad quality in the past, it made me realize I wouldn't go for a BlackBerry again. So.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken the worst time to eat some crisps every time someone is speaking so far. Hopefully I get better at this. So, I have owned a fair few BlackBerries. I'm almost definitely sure Craig has. I don't know about Mark.
No, I've never owned a BlackBerry. The last time I had a phone that did have a keypad on it, though, I've just looked up. It was, if anyone can remember, the Sony Ericsson P990.
Yeah.
Oh no, I had a P1 as well after it. But yeah, the 990 came out in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about a long time ago. And after the 990 and the P1 less so because I didn't like the keyboard on it, but I did want a phone with a real keypad on it. I wanted to be able to type, granted with my fingers, but touch typing, so you can tell when you've hit the right key because you can feel which key you've hit. And nobody made phones that I wanted. Motorola produced one, but they refused to sell it in outside the US.
Oh, the Milestone.
No, it was the Motorola Pro.
Yes. No, I have been speaking to some US people to potentially maybe have a Droid Pro sent over here so I can add it in my Key One review. If not, I'm speaking to Michael Fisher about something. That is the phone I wanted so hard in 2010, I think. It was before Ice Cream Sandwich and Gingerbread launched in December 2010. So yeah, it's like early to mid 2010 this thing launched. And it's pretty much a plastic Motorola made Key One for...
Yeah, more or less. And, you know, I did want a real keyboard then because I really was not sold on the idea of touchscreens for typing. You know, I had the Ericssons where you had a stylus and you could just simply write, which was so easy to use. But, you know, capacitive screens came in and I got used to it, and now I use Dvorak layout, and BlackBerry sure as fuck aren't going to make one a Key One with a Dvorak keyboard on it. So, yeah.
be fair, you are somewhat of a sadist for choosing to use Dvorak.
Yeah, I grant it.
However much better it may be technically, and however much you love it, like I get that there are pros and cons to everything, but there, like in my mind, you are a different type of sadist for choosing to use that on a regular basis. So, Craig,
Hello.
was I correct in assuming you've owned multiple BlackBerries?
I've never actually owned one myself.
Company issued?
Yes, 2 or 3.
Okay. And thoughts?
I've never had an issue using a BlackBerry.
Mhm.
In terms of the Key 1, I think I've said this to you before off air. I think the aspect ratio, and I know what you're going to say, but I think the aspect ratio immediately sticks out to me as something that I would struggle with. But I'm happy to kind of be turned around on that one. I'm sure it's a good phone. Other than corporate, I can't see anybody using it, and the only reason I say that is because, okay, no, I'll say it. Literally, nobody uses a physical keyboard in a consumer world anymore.
Like very few. What's odd? Very few people are buying laptops. Very few people are also buying tablets, but there are a lot of tablets out there, and people have gotten very used to touch typing on them.
I think that plays into it. I think the other thing is, unfortunately, people look at a physical keyboard. It doesn't matter how good it is or how well implemented it is. People see that as something that is 5-10 years old.
It does seem a bit arcane to some people.
I'm sure it's. But I always thought the Passport was pretty cool, and I thought the Priv was pretty cool. Although the Passport aesthetically wasn't my sort of thing, so I'm sure the Key 1's going to be pretty cool as well. But
if you can manage to get a Key 1 in a couple of months for like a retrospect, I would love to get your opinion on it.
Okay. Sold.
Because you were like the business user who had to use a BlackBerry, so you've used them in that setting. I think for me, I will come out and say I am a very big BlackBerry fan. I've got a playbook off to the side. I have an 8520 in 9350. I've got like 2 or 3 generations of Pearl. I had the Pearl Flip. I had the Storm. Like I'm a really big BlackBerry fan, and a part of my love of this phone is due to the brand, which sounds absolutely insane when you think that BlackBerry don't actually manufacture this. It's TCL. But this feels, when I first picked this up in Barcelona, it felt like the first time I picked up a Bold 9000. So solid metal, really nice back. The keyboard felt solid. Everything just went really nice. And that's how I felt with this. And I don't want to put this down. And I can also, I struggle to kill it in a day. It's 7:20 in the evening and I've got 74% left. So
how is it in your hand?
It's not tiny. If I put it next to the Huawei P10, it's actually slightly taller. And it's a little bit wider, but not really all that not all that noticeably. The noticeable thing is the heft. It's quite weighty, but it doesn't feel overly weighty. It feels like it should be this weight because of the way it's made. If it was any lighter, it'd feel weird. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. If no one has anything else to say, should we just move on to the next subject?
I've got one thing. What about the pricing of the device? What do you think about it?
I don't know what. I think it's like 550 or 599 euro, and it's 499 pounds over here. That is too much for a consumer device. But as we said, this is not really going to be marketed all that much as a consumer device. They will sell some to consumers. That doesn't but for business, that price doesn't really matter all that much. So I would prefer it to be cheaper, off contract, maybe closer to the £350 to £400 mark. It won't be that price for a while. I mean, the Priv, for whatever reason, has remained a somewhat expensive phone most of the time. So, next,
Cool. What else we got?
the Galaxy S8 and the stupid Bixby button, which Samsung really doesn't want you to remap. So, Craig, do you want to speak about this? While I get myself a drink.
So I understand why Samsung are unhappy about that. Unfortunately, it's of their own making. If you release a product with a dedicated button for a dedicated piece of software and said dedicated piece of software isn't there, then you've only got yourself to blame. If people start using it for, I don't know, let's say they map Cortana Digital Assistant to it, or they map Google Assistant or something else to it, then they've only got themselves to blame. Release a fully functional product with all the bells and whistles. Don't release a piece of hardware and the software's to come later on. It's normally the other way around. They've only got themselves to blame as far as I'm concerned, and it's kind of it's something and nothing. I don't see it as a big issue. Let them remap it. These are the same people that probably won't be using Bixby anyway. He says as he scrambles for his unmute button.
Yeah, exactly. I am all for Bixby having its own button when it's ready.
Yep.
It's not just that. Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, Dom. I was just going to say, do you think? And I don't know. I haven't done any research on this. I'm just throwing this one out to everybody. Do you think Bixby was ready for launch, and then someone found a few bits and pieces, did a little bit of test, did a bit more testing, and found a fatal flaw, and they pulled it? Because why would you release a product with a dedicated piece of hardware and then say the software's not ready? That's like, here's an Amazon Echo. Doesn't work yet, but when we release the software, it will.
It's like releasing an Echo with none of the extensions. So you can use it to shop on Amazon and make it play music from Amazon Music, but you can't get it to work with Hue. You can't get it to work with Spotify. That's what that would be like.
See, the difference, I think, with the Echo, the entire purpose of the Echo is that you can interact with it and do the assistant stuff. The entire purpose of an SA is not to use Bixby. It has a lot of other functionality, and I think Samsung were forced, due to the basically the annual schedule that they've kind of gotten themselves into for releasing products. The hardware had to go. Why they decided to kill Bixby, I don't really understand. I mean, even a crap not working very well would have been better than nothing.
I highly disagree. Bixby it's a good idea. From what I understand, it actually has nothing to do with Samsung's acquisition of Viv Labs, which are the original people behind Siri, before Apple bought Siri and then made Siri worse. I think there was a stat the other day that Siri now only just does what Siri originally did when the original developers made it in like 2009. After Apple bought it, shut most of it down, and then has spent all this time building it back up. But no, Bixby does almost nothing of interest right now. And the stuff they said it can do, it does not do. And when it does do it, it will only do it one language at a time. So I think as of today or yesterday, the Bixby voice thing, which is you can do anything on your phone you can do with voice, that is only available in South Korea right now. Not even if you speak South Korean, it only works if you speak South Korean and are in South Korea.
Yeah.
It is most certainly not ready. Like if they launched it as like an S-Voice thing, where it's like a software thing, it's really not ready. They maybe label it as beta. They don't force you to use it. That's fine. If you give an entire special button for something, it better be able to do what that button is for. Like the key one has a button on the side. It's called the convenience key. I can map it to anything I want. It doesn't even have to be an app. I can make it take a screenshot or open the camera or take a photo in the camera. Like it's a mappable button. Pardon?
Sorry, Dom. I was just going to say, and that right there is exactly how Samsung should have discussed that during their event, their flagship event. They should have basically said, right, Bixby's coming. Here's this amazing piece of software. Here's this multi-function button. Map it to whatever you want. And guess what? Even map it to Bixby when Bixby comes.
Yeah.
And that's how they should have done it. Not here's the dedicated Bixby button with nothing.
By the way,
dedicated on it.
Bixby doesn't actually work very well.
Well, I think part of the problem with that is it's not just Samsung. It's in general to, I would say, every company in the Far East, with the possible exception of Sony. Companies there can do hardware. They understand hardware. They know how to do it, and they can do it really well. What they absolutely cannot seem to get right is software and user interfaces that work outside of their own domestic markets. If you ever look at a website from companies in Japan or South Korea or China, they all go by the philosophy, more is better. The more flashing things, the more random crap that you have all over the page, the better your site is.
It's like 2006 MySpace.
It's like somebody gets the GeoCities. Yeah, the GeoCities.
It's like an early GeoCities page.
Yeah, but they're all like that.
Wait, I just had a thought. Jeffrey and Siddu, have you seen the film Space Jam?
No.
Never heard of it.
Oh dear God, I feel so old.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either.
The original Space Jam film came out like late 90s, early 2000s, and it had a website to promote it, and it is still available now. And it's like the epitome of. I'll post it in Slack, but it's the best and worst thing in the world.
So, guys, just to kind of jump back to the original point. So, are Samsung getting bent out of shape because people are remapping this button?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because that goes to my point when you just disappeared, is that they can't. I was gonna extrapolate that sentence, but there's no need. They just can't.
Well, they can. I mean, it's not reasonable, but they absolutely can, because
physically they can. Mark, you're right.
They want everybody to use their little special magic thing that they think is really good, but nobody else agrees.
Well, then they need to not stop releasing hardware that supports Android, if they want to do that, and start releasing fully functional products day one release. It's cool. I think it's cool that people have hacked together something. I was just having a quick Google, like 20, 30 minutes, hacked together this little program that enables you to remap it. Cool. Yeah,
I mean,
that's what the community's about.
Paul O'Brien has literally gone through his entire essay and disabled anything to do with Bixby. And he now has a button that does nothing. But he said, at least it no longer opens something I don't want to use. At least it is no longer wasting clock cycles of something I will never use. And
I just had a thought, what it reminds me of.
What?
Do you remember back in the day in the UK when Vodafone and Cellnet became deregulated so that they could lock phones to their network? Yes. And Vodafone decided that Vodafone would have Vodafone Live, and they would map at least 7 or 8 buttons on your phone to automatically open the Vodafone Live webpage.
I don't recall that, but I recall that they did have dedicated. I thought there was a dedicated Vodafone button on some of the carrier-based products that they did.
Oh, they did it.
There was the
over.
Vodafone 360, which I think I've actually got one of the Samsung Vodafone 360 phones upstairs. It doesn't work anymore. But it was like Vodafone tried to make their own Android essentially before Android was a thing, and it was so bad. But like Mark said, there's there's 4 or 5 function buttons on the front, 3 of which lead to Vodafone services that you can't remap, you can't do. And they are very prominently Vodafone things.
So, Jeffrey, with this, I mean, let's say you stump up some cash, what, I don't know, €800, something like that for an S8. Are you bothered by the fact that Bixby, there's a button on there that you can't really use at the moment?
No, I wouldn't use the stock software, so I would try to at least use a custom ROM. So yeah.
Okay, fine. So you'd basically stay true to sort of Android community, and you'd just be
I hate stock software, so it's not my taste. Yeah.
So would you take the Paul O'Brien route and disable it until you can root and flash lineage or something?
Yeah, it will be my route. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I just got a crisp in my throat. Lastly, I want to talk about Elon Musk and... Sorry. Oh, I'm dying. Corey, can you take over for a moment?
I can take over and say that Don wants to talk about Elon Musk and his TED Talk and the amazing things and his sort of discussion around where he see things going in the not too distant future. But other than that, I don't have it written down on a piece of paper.
No.
I can tell you what he said. I can Google what he said. Yeah, he said lots of things. Google's failing me here.
I think the gist of what he said was Americans need to stop driving everywhere and use trains like normal people.
I'm sure that's not what he said. I'm sure that's absolutely not what he said. Unless it was some sort of...
It's called paraphrasing.
Yeah. Trade, yeah.
Yeah.
Forthcoming electric semi-truck. Really, really don't want to see one of them in my town.
Yes, again, it's called a train.
I'm trying to find a list of things Mr. Musk has said, because I didn't see it.
Well, wasn't it by 2020 he was saying that Elon Musk wants all like some of the cars to be able to do level 5 autonomous driving from LA to New York?
Yeah, it's called a train.
Yeah. I hate trains.
Mark, that's not the point of the thing. There's a difference between like sitting in a car, which you can configure like some like rickety old train.
But it's really clever that a car could do that. Okay, I totally grant that that's really, really clever. I look at like, why would you want that?
Some people like driving.
But they don't want the car to do the driving for them.
Yeah, well. Yeah.
It's like, if you don't like driving, then take a train or fly.
Flying is expensive.
Or use an autonomous car so you don't have to drive.
Logic.
Yeah, but if you can afford in 2020 a fully autonomous car, I'm also going to wager that you could afford to just fly from New York to LA.
Yeah, but it takes another 3 hours waiting before the flight. So.
And how many days would it take in a car?
Yeah, I don't know.
So there was I have found a couple of things. So one of the things he was talking about is, I think, to be honest, I think it's an extension of the Hyperloop conversation he was talking about. So anybody who doesn't know, Hyperloop is the sort of cool vacuum-based, I believe it is, sort of subway transportation system that he wants to kind of deliver. I think he's already delivering it in close circumstances where he's actually building a prototype in this thing, and I'm sure it will be something. We will definitely see something about that in the next 15 years or so.
To be honest, absolutely, I think Hyperloop is an incredibly good idea, and basically, I think the place that it's going to happen is Shanghai. Shanghai at some point is going to upgrade their maglev train, so that instead of it taking like 20 minutes or however tiny amount of time it takes, if you can stick your maglev train in a giant glass tube, suck out all the air, there's no wind resistance, so you can basically send that train as fast as you like.
Yeah, and I think this was,
at that point the problem becomes stabilization.
I think this was his the sort of extension was basically using, this is what they've called it, and I can't think of a better description, but effectively sleds or vehicles. Just think of, multiple cars on sleds. Anybody who's seen iRobot, it's very sort of similar, but in terms of, instead of an automated car, you've got an automated sled. And that kind of, what I don't get,
almost like a tram where it's got a rail, so the sled goes in this rail in the middle, which may be electrified, it may be not. It'd kind of be a waste not to be, I think. And it can't deviate from there. It knows where it gets on. It knows where it has to leave. It just does it.
so what else did you have to say, Dom?
I don't know how much you guys have talked about, but basically it's how close they're getting to what's called level 5 autonomy, which is you get in the car, tell the car your destination, and then it just goes. There's no user intervention. So you can read a book, you can get some work done.
Can I just say, it sounds very like Uber.
Or a train, you might say, Mark.
Except a hell of a lot cheaper than Uber. But one of the things they were saying is...
well, but with Uber, you don't have
you will be able to offset the cost of your car by essentially doing ride sharing. So like Uber, except like you take your car to work and then you say, okay, my car is available for the next 6 hours. Only people who are in the Tesla community can use it, who've been there for 6 months, who have a good standing reputation, blah, blah, blah. So you can use it to make money. But it does kind of have an Uber-esque thing behind it.
So she doesn't like it, or he doesn't like it.
Really doesn't like it. But if you can watch Elon Musk speak for 45 minutes, I'd definitely go and watch the TED Talk. It was everything. They're like they want to get that level of autonomy by end of this year. So like they said, like late November, December time, they want to be able to go from LA to New York without any user intervention.
I just want him to do Hyperloop. I don't care about autonomous driving. I care about Hyperloop.
I super care about Hyperloop as well, only because when we go to MWC or IFA, I'd rather get on a Hyperloop for half an hour than a plane for 2.5.
Or a train,
Also,
before you start.
Or a train for Mark, the one person that likes to fuck a train. It's the not just because it's faster and cool and high tech. It's direct, and as Craig can attest, what happens when you switch airlines halfway through your connecting flight?
Well, I have no personal experience of this, Dom, but I would imagine there could be complications in terms of receiving your luggage.
Yeah, you don't.
And
don't
costs
do that.
and prices. Well. Be interesting, that wouldn't it? And that's the thing. Like direct flights and direct trains are usually a lot more expensive than the connecting counterparts. So if you can get a direct Hyperloop going at even a slow Hyperloop going 600 miles an hour instead of the full 760 or whatever it is. So go nuts. We'll go even slower. We'll go 450 miles an hour, which is still twice as fast as a bullet train. Those have the potential to be amazing. And they're not going to be for inner city commuting, where buses, cabs, and even light trains are fast enough. They're not going to be. They're going to be for, oh shit, I need to go to the other end of this country. I need to go to another country. Like in the UK, it's only really going to be useful if you need to go from London to Scotland a lot. So it might be useful for you, Mark. Who knows?
Yeah.
But if you live in France and need to go to like the south of Italy for work, and you can get a subterranean Hyperloop that gets you there in 45 minutes, that'll be.
I think the ideal way to do it is have two series of Hyperloops. You have international, which just basically goes from capital city to capital city of every country in. Fuck it, why not the world? And then once you've gotten to that country, then you go on to a smaller national system, and you can traverse around.
I mean, Jeffrey, would you be interested in that if you could jump on a hyperloop in the middle of your city? Which, again, I don't know where you live. I'm incredibly tired. If you could jump on a hyperloop and then just get to London in an hour, would you do that?
Yeah, it would be a lot better than going by car, plane, train. I hate trains, so that's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Mark is another person that fucking hates trains.
Trains have waiting time. They can.
But I just had another idea for people that do for people that work. Most people work. You can live pretty much the other side of the country and then travel into London for work.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's actually
it not be much different than a normal commute, except you're going 700 miles an hour on the hyperloop.
Yeah. There's actually a reasonable number of people who daily commute from like Edinburgh to City Airport in London.
Yeah, and there was another thing. Like I think it was a year or so ago that it was cheaper to live in Barcelona and fly to London than it is to live in London and work in London.
Yeah,
which is utterly insane.
Yes.
But if you could live somewhere where property is super cheap, which again I don't know much about geography or property, so I don't know anywhere like that. But
I think it's called not UK.
Yeah, pretty much. If you say you lived in southern Italy, which again, it's relatively cheap for property down there. You live in southern Italy. Maybe you get a train up to Rome, and you get a hyperloop from Rome to London that takes half hour, 45 minutes. Then you get on with your day, do your work, hyperloop back to Rome, train back to your house. That is entirely doable. If it works out to like an hour commute either way, that's not much different than what some people do anyway.
Some people do a lot longer commutes than that as well, which I don't know how they survive.
I was speaking to a US friend of mine who does an hour and a half commute each way every day. And it's because everywhere in the US is just really far from each other, so people are used to it.
I think the interesting thing there, though, is, and I know we'll probably end up moving on, but I think the interesting thing is that what is that going to do to real estate? Because if I'm in London, say I'm in, I don't know, I'm in London and I need to commute into the centre of London in order to work, I'm still looking at half an hour, 45-minute commute. If I can just disappear and go and live in the south of France and get exactly the same commute, what's that going to, is London going to be a barren wasteland of nothing?
I mean, London is a barren wasteland. It's just a right shithole.
But you know what I mean? It's just like everything will be dirt cheap because everyone's disappearing because no one will live there. There's no need to.
Honestly, that's probably the best case scenario. To me, that is the best case scenario. London is overcrowded. It is not a nice place to be for an extended period of time. And if you could take 80% of the people out of London and spread them out, more power to you.
Just keep them there.
I mean, this is someone who lived in London for 16, 17 years. And I lived in suburban London. I didn't even live in the center of London. And there were still too many people for me. So anyway, those are pretty much the news topics, which has taken up a little bit more time than I had hoped. So we'll only speak about one of the discussion topics I had today, which is, can brands be resurrected, or if they're dead, are they just dead? So the examples I have here are BlackBerry, for obvious reasons, and Nokia are the two most prominent ones at the moment, which are doing really, really well. And then we've got ones which aren't doing so well. So we've got Polaroid, Kodak, and sadly, as a bit of a tech geek, is Commodore. We've seen a couple of Commodore phones. We've seen a couple of relaunched ZX Spectrums. And I don't care what you think, Americans. It's not ZX, it is ZX Spectrum.
Fucking A, brother.
Yeah, man. So yeah, when brands go, are they gone, or do you think they can be resurrected and have that same cachet they once did? I kind of want to. I want to stay out of all this. So if we go, Mark, Jeffrey, Craig, Siddu, because that's how my Hangouts goes. Kind of want to see your opinions on this, and I'm starting with Mark because Mark has very strong opinions on everything. So, Mark, take it away.
Well, a couple of the ones that you mentioned, Nokia and BlackBerry, I wouldn't say they died. I think they were just on extended. They were in the coma ward. They weren't dead. They were just in the coma ward, and so they're reasonably alive enough that people kind of haven't forgotten about them. I mean, Nokia, people want them to come back. They do. Nobody really wants BlackBerry to come back, but Nokia, I think Nokia can do it. I think they could, because people want Nokia phones. I mean, look at all the press that is it the 3330 or whatever?
3310.
Yeah.
One that you know they're redoing, and the amount. I mean, I don't know what money they're actually going to make on that, but the amount of press that it's getting. I mean, people want it. People want to talk about it. They want Nokia to become a thing again.
I think the 3310 is going to cost €59, so they're making a fair bit of money on that. But when I was at MWC, the line for the Nokia booth, not either part of it, the Nokia booth in general, was bigger than the line for the LG and the Huawei booth. So we had the LG G6, the Huawei P10, the P10 Plus, the Mate 9, the Mate 9 Porsche Edition, all the watches, everything, and the MateBook. And the line to see the 3 new Nokia Android phones and the 3310 was bigger than both of those combined. That brand means something.
Yeah, people like it.
What about you, Jeffrey?
Well, I've loved Nokia since I've got my first Nokia phone a few years ago, and I actually liked the new Nokia 6 phone. And if it wouldn't be, if I wouldn't have got the 2 new phones last year, I may have bought it. But yeah. And as for BlackBerry, I don't see a reason why they would be coming back to the consumer market. They haven't really been gone in terms of software, but it's more or less, yeah, they should stay with software and business stuff, but not in the consumer market.
So if somehow both of your OnePlus 3s died next year, somehow something happens and kills both of them, would you consider buying the Nokia 6 to replace it?
Yeah, or the Nokia 9 if it becomes a thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So those brands are a thing. So, but in general, not any particular brand. Do you think brands can be revived then, or it's like once they're gone, they're gone, or do people still hold on to a certain way?
If it was a well-loved brand.
Okay, so Nokia was a loved brand, but people used BlackBerries for work, and people don't.
Yeah, they didn't like BlackBerry. It was a functional tool.
Yeah.
BlackBerry was a modern screwdriver. It was something useful. Nobody loved it. People loved Nokia. People loved that stupid Snake game. Yeah. You know, people
also
love that.
The new Snake game on the 3310 is terrible, by the way.
The original one was terrible. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
people
at least that. Yeah, people loved it, even if it was terrible. This one is terrible, and no one seemed to like it. They could have literally put that same, like 8-bit pixel art Snake game on there, and people would have fucking lost their shit. So, Craig, what about you?
Brands can die, in my opinion, and by die I mean completely and utterly die, be buried completely. No little floating granules of soil like in what do you call it? Superman, Batman versus Superman. None of that nonsense. I think we've seen some brands like Commodore. I mean, everybody loved Commodore. No one had a bad thing to say about Commodore. I loved my Commodore 64. No, it didn't come back. No, it hasn't come back. People have bought the rights, people have bought the license for it, but no one's managed to do anything with it. And I think that's probably only going to become so. BlackBerry as a brand hasn't died. They would use the word pivot. I think what they've actually done is just failed remarkably. But then they haven't died; they've disappeared. Nokia, likewise. I would say they probably have pivoted more and also failed. But anyway, yes, they can die. And I think if we fast forward another 3 or 4 years, I don't think anybody is going to have any brand loyalty. Samsung and maybe Apple in the tech world are probably the only brands that are producing hardware that people would be loyal to. People will walk into a store and say, "Can I have the new Samsung phone?" I don't know whether that will continue to be a thing. I don't think anybody would care if brands disappear.
The only people that tend to care are the techies. So we can use HTC as an example here. Loads of tech journalist type people like ourselves are upset when HTC does poorly. When the U Ultra came out and got terrible reviews, people were upset because they have fond memories of HTC. Yet these are the people that aren't buying HTC phones; they just like the brand. So
yeah, because gone are the days where you buy a Bush TV because Bush has always been brilliant for you. Sorry if people listening don't know what Bush is, just Google it. Then you down to Argos. They sit in the queue with their little ticket. They get called to the front and they pick up their Bush TV. But no one cares about that anymore. Yeah. Marketing dollars are the pre-sale marketing aspect is the only thing that matters as far as brand recognition is concerned anymore. People won't look at a brand and say, "I will buy that product because it is that brand." They will look at a marketing campaign and say, "I will buy that product because of that." If Samsung took the word Samsung out of their marketing campaign, I would still argue that they probably get as much traction simply because of the amount of money that they throw at it.
I agree to an extent, but also because they've spent so much time making sure people know the Galaxy name.
Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah. You absolutely. So brand recognition is still a thing, but I still think brands can die. And I think they should.
But can they be revived in a proper sense to their former glory? Can they be revived?
I don't believe so. I think that I'm probably playing a little bit devil's advocate here because I'm not wedded to this idea, but I think when you have a semi-big brand that is, for all intents and purposes, dead, I think the only way that can be revived is it can be swallowed up by another like-minded bigger brand and regurgitated. Mm-hmm. You may use some of that brand in some of the marketing material, but it really doesn't exist anymore, and it won't be the same product, and it won't be the same thing you remember.
The key thing about that just popped into my head right now is ThinkPad, which was obviously very famously an IBM brand, which when IBM started doing poorly, they sold it off to Lenovo. Mm-hmm. And current ThinkPads are not the same as old ThinkPads. But the ThinkPad brand did go away for a while. It was a couple of years it went away. But ThinkPads are still seen as the business laptop. So Siddu.
Yeah.
I mean, catching on from the ThinkPad thing, I actually had somebody, because I work in Curry's PC World, I had somebody come in and saying, "Oh yeah, do you have, the Lenovo ThinkPad?" Because he came in with a friend and he's like, "That's the business laptop to get." He said, "I want to buy a couple," and then, obviously we didn't have any because for some reason we have like 1 billion of these really bad, like cheap laptops that nobody buys.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll come and stare at it for a good half an hour, ask you everything about it, and then be like, "Okay, I'll come back tomorrow and buy it."
And
no. But as resurrecting brands, I don't know. I think maybe if it's the memories are there with the original brand, I think it might actually be better to just kill it off completely, because you're never going to have the same brand. With who is it that bought the Nokia name?
HMD.
Yeah, HMD. Like, they're not making the exact same product, and the memories, even though that people are like, oh yeah, the Nokia name, it's not going to be the same products. I think it might just be easier to kill some of them. Maybe fair enough, not maybe some of the big brands, but the smaller brands. I think nobody remembers them that fondly for them to be able to remain in the market and be as competitive as the other people that fought on, and their original brand lives on.
I mean, Nokia is kind of a weird one, because Nokia existed and then kind of went bad. Then they made a deal with Microsoft. That didn't do too well. Then Microsoft bought them and just fired everyone off every quarter, apparently, for no reason. And then the people that got fired...
Allegedly. Sorry, guys. Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. The people that got let go decided to make a new company called HMD. So HMD, I think, is like 80 to 85% ex-Nokia employees anyway. So it's headquartered in Finland, is majority made up by ex-Nokia employees. It has the rights to the Nokia name. The only thing that's different is they're no longer physically producing the hardware.
Isn't Foxconn doing it?
Foxconn is handling manufacturing, but Nokia, or HMD, sorry, have to approve a physical hardware design and then approve the branding. So Foxconn can't just make a reference phone and say, let us use the Nokia name. HMD have to either send them a design for them to make, like Apple does, or they work with Foxconn to use best what they have there, and then they co-brand it. And I don't know if Foxconn are doing the after-sales support this time, because they were for the tablet, but I don't know if they are this time.
I was just going to say one more thing before Mark jumps in. I think that's the perfect example of what I was talking about. I think you can leverage a little bit of good favor and goodwill from people who remember, oh, Nokia, they're the guys that built that phone that you can kill somebody with. I think you can leverage that, and that's great. But when they market the products, you won't see a lot of Nokia, too much Nokia branding. It will just be sort of in the background. The Nokia branding will take a bit of a step back, and it's like delivered by the guys who used to deliver this. Yeah. So it's a different product, and they've got a different brand strategy for that product. But anybody who does remember that brand will go, okay, fine. This is another way into that particular that product stream. But I don't think they would lead with that. They won't have a big blue and white poster and then a tiny little picture of like the products that they're delivering, I don't think.
Yeah. All right. Has anyone else got anything to say, or can we close up the first episode back?
Well, I just thought it was kind of interesting that throughout that and all the brands that you listed, practically all of them, none of us spoke at all about.
In what way?
Like you mentioned, like Polaroid and Kodak. I mean, they were both once. Well, they're
the ones that went wrong. They're the ones that got completely liquefied and said to anyone, "You can use our name." Yeah, they're the ones that did it wrong. So,
well, also is it just that none of us are really old enough to have fond memories about Polaroid?
I don't know. I do.
I've got like old Polaroids, and I've got an old camera, and they do bring back good memories. But I think you're right. And I just don't think people know that when they go into Asda and see a Polaroid TV, it's not actually Polaroid. I don't think people
care.
Yeah, I don't think they care.
I think to coin Mark's phrase, I think normals won't care. Normals will walk in and they'll look for an HD, and they'll look for size of screen, and they'll look for the cheapest price, and they go sold, and away they walk.
Which can I also say I've just come back from Asda. They've got a 55-inch 4K
Hisense
smart telly by Polaroid.
Okay.
For 375 quid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think people who are looking for, shall we say, more premium products,
Mhm.
I don't think TVs branded Polaroid are sold in any of those places.
Agreed.
I mean, they are sold in, Asda, and I don't think people that go to Asda for their TV shopping needs are, shall we say, all that discriminating.
I mean,
Yeah.
Siddu, you, like I said, you work at Harry's
Yeah.
PC World. How many TVs do you sell that are not Sony, LG, or Samsung?
Hardly any. Like,
There you go.
you get the odd person. I sold a JVC on Sunday, but that's like rare because the JVC is like one of the cheapest. It's like 140 for I think like 27 inches or something.
Yeah.
But like compared, because what it was, there was that for 140, and there was a Samsung for 120, and I think that was a couple inches smaller. But people weren't looking at the brands.
Every inch counts, man.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't looking at the brand. Like, if you saw the picture quality, you'd see that the JVC one was so much better. And JVC, it's not actually the same brand because my dad bought one back in October, and inside it's actually got, oh yeah, if you need help, call the Curry's PC World helpline on blah 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 blah, because it's made for Curry's PC World, and they handle all the the after sales
They
internally.
just license the JVC name.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to, like, people come in, they're like, oh yeah, I want a Samsung or Sony or LG. Less Sony even, like, we only have one Sony, whereas we have about like 15 LG and 15 Samsung. I mean, I'm in a high street store, so it's not going to be the hugest selection, but Sony, even nobody comes in for a Sony TV, it's going to be Samsung or LG.
I think
Anyway.
you're talking enthusiast, aren't you? Once you get, as Mark was alluding to, once you get to the enthusiast side of things,
Once you get to people that are willing to pay $1,000 for a TV, they know what they want.
Yeah, like, I
people
think
are going to look for certain brands then.
Yeah, I think you're going to get people coming in and saying, I want a Sony TV in John Lewis. You're not in Asda.
Yeah.
Once again, guys,
Anyway.
if anybody wants to pick up on Mark's Asda comments, at Mark2410 on Twitter.
Or
Well-
Mark at MobileTechTalk.
Indeed.
Oh, yeah. Well, although that doesn't really ever get looked at.
For shame. But I'd like to thank all of you for joining me for the 50th episode of Mobile Tech Talk and the first one back, or what should we call Mobile Tech Talk Season 2. I would like to thank our sponsor for this week, which is Craig's Wallet, because the rest of us are poor and he pays for hosting.
And it's a remarkable wallet it is too.
Yeah, much nicer than my Tyvek one. So if you want to catch any of us on social media, I am at mobile_dom. Mark, as Craig just said, is at Mark2410. Craig is, I believe, at Mr. Craig Bradshaw. Yes. Jeffrey, what is yours?
I don't know.
How do you not know your social media tag?
While Jeffrey is looking for his Twitter handle, Siddu, do you have a Twitter?
Yeah, at Siddu Minjol.
And Jeffrey's
Thank you very
at Mr. Jeffrey Veld.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, it's like my name.
And the site, as always, is at MTT Feed. You can find us here, which is going to be every Monday from now on. Every Sunday, we have the News Blow, which is a 60-second news show that I host on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And potentially some more things in the future. So, until next week, goodbye.
Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.